What's up YouTube, Freight Hero here. I'm gonna deck profile my Thingsaver Jewel Knight deck. For the starter we have Tiffany again. She's the most versatile starter for Jewel Knights, and honestly she does give you that one soul for Thingsaver. Like if you're playing against retired decks, it's probably a better idea to just shove her into the soul for the guaranteed soul instead of losing her to a retire. And then she also makes 16 columns if they're Jewel Knights into 22 columns, so it does help for some pushes. And then triggers for Margle, of course, since you're playing Thingsaver. You need the extra chances to get Soul. And then I'm running 8 crit, all Jewel Knight, because you need Jewel Knight names for Sword Me. Same thing with heals. And then on to grade 1s, we have 3 limit break removers. The numbers you can kind of play around with, since you can tutor it out with Sword Me, or oh yeah, that's kind of the only way this build usually does it, but yeah, it's just there to get your reverse Ashley and stuff off early game. And then sorry about that. 3 Shelly, your more or less 10k attacker, the pseudo 10k attacker that can just hit numbers, Jewel Knight name, and it's just an overall decent card. And then the 2 Brionac symbol me guys, as I call them. Yeah, same thing as before. He's basically the, when you have 3 or more other Jewel Knights, uh, you're able to rest it and give plus 10 to a Jewel Knight, including the Vanguard. So there's a lot of plays with it. Good number hitting, a lot of shenanigans. And then 4 Isolt, Jewel Knight Isolts. This is where probably preference comes into play. I like the extra Jewel Knight names, but I may try using the G Perfect Guards for the unflips. These Isolts have come in handy with the Sword Me's though. I have been damaging them and getting the Sword Me off because they were Jewel Knight name. And then last but not least, 2 Laurel Knight Sisyphus or whatever his name is. Just stride fodder. I think people probably play this at around 3 to 4, but I like having the extra Jewel Knight names, and I don't know about you guys, but 3s clogs my hand like nobody's business in this deck, so I don't feel the need to run more of him, or just more stride fodder in general. And then onto the grade 2s, we got 4 Tracy's, your pseudo 12Ks, just like the 10k attacker Shelly. It does apply pressure early game with Sword Me, or you just get combos with like reverse Ashley, or just having a 12k attacker on Thingsaver is kind of nice if you can manage it. Of course, the best card in the entire deck, Saber Me, getting the free grade 1 in the back row, and you get a lot of combo plays off with it, with maybe the Ashley or your Thingsaver turns or your stride turns, because you have Tiffany and stuff to help out. And then I'm only running 2 Blaster Blade Seekers. If you're very good at managing, 2 should be more than enough. I mean, it's up to you. You can just play the 3 to be safe and make it a lot easier on yourself, because there might be that moment where 2 of them hit the damage zone, or maybe you draw the 1 for turn and 1's in damage or something. Maybe you had to ride it. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, but I haven't had that problem yet, so I'm pretty okay with running 2. And then just a tech here. We have 1 Tilda. She's just there as a floater, really. She doesn't do much. She's a Jewel Knight name though, which does help. And like if you do manage to get her early game and you don't have like the Sword Me, but you have the Ashley, it can help you get the Limit Break Remover to go off. But honestly, that's just preference. Probably the realistic thing to do would just throw in another Blaster Blade Seeker in her place. And then on to the grade 3s. I'm running 3 Ashley Reverse. If you don't know the reason for running Ashley Reverse in Thingsaver decks now, is that on grade 3 Ride, she can actually do something if you go first, assuming you hit Saber Me or just the Limit Break or Sword Me and the Saber Me, either or. So you can just go off. If you don't kill a front row with her skill, you at least get a free, well, more or less free rear guard for the Counterblast 1 lock 1. So it does help out. And then it is something, if you can't stride, you can just keep spamming her until you get something to stride with. And it does thin the deck, which is nice. And then my personal preference tech, one Ashley regular, or Break Ride version. Maybe you could, if you want to be a little more consistent, you probably should go 2-2. But the reason why I run her is for those moments where you get her as your grade 3 ride, and you go second. Usually people just go straight into Thing Saver, but if you do manage to get this, it's actually happened more than I would have expected just with the one copy. But yeah, if you go into this, you stride, and then when you eventually hit Limit Break, or maybe you have the Limit Break remover and you want to go off with Thing Saver, or you just want to go for like the big Thing Saver push, you just sit on her until you hit it, and then you hit the damage and then just go off. Every time I rode her and managed to Break Ride her into Thing Saver, I've had just overwhelming advantage because of it, since you don't have to tag boosted on the first one. It's like 32 with crit, so they're either forced to heavy guard that, perfect guard it, and then assuming they have or don't have a second perfect guard, the second one is still 27. And if you really wanted to and you knew they only had one perfect guard, you can apply trigger boost to the booster if you really wanted to push, which is going back to like old Seeker plays. But yeah, anyway, that's why there's the 1, maybe 2 if you really wanted to, but you really don't need it. And then last but not least, of course, the Thing Saver part of the deck, the 4 Thing Savers. You have to run 4 because you can damage them, they all go to hand. So many times I've had like 2 to 3 copies of him in my hand and I'd have to Legion them all back on my push turns. But that just goes with running him. It's completely inconsistent because of the fact that if you lose copies and damage, or you draw them or drive check them all, it just becomes a sad card. G-Zone probably could be running 2 Gobblades. This, I think, is more personal preference or what your meta is. If you have a lot more retired decks going around, 2 Gobblade is probably your better option. I run 1 Samuel because extra damage is pretty great sometimes. He can just win games by himself if you manage it. With Sword Me, it helps get a full field a lot quicker too. And then I'm running 2 Girons. I was running a Blizza up until yesterday. I was running him in a tournament, and the Blizza was probably the worst card in my G-Zone. I kept wishing I either had a second Gobblade or a second Giron, but I feel like the second Giron was what I needed more in most situations, because I could Giron a little earlier after I Gobblade or something, and then have the Giron again for the late game push when they're at 5, because if you know they have a perfect guard, Saint Blow becomes kind of sad, and it's just like, hi, perfect guard me. And at least with Giron, you can bait the perfect guard anyway, because he's a 26 or 31 depending if he has a boost or not, and then him giving an extra 5k, it's like a trigger boost to another column, so it does really help. But that does assume you can have a more or less decent field to keep advantage using him. And then the 4 Saint Blows, of course, very self-explanatory. He is like the best finisher for this deck next to Thing Saver, depending on the situation, since you can end a game at like their 2 damage, assuming you hit a decent amount of crits, or even at 1 damage if you drive check all crits. So he's kind of ridiculous in his own. And that's basically the entire deck. See you guys later.